Hello everyone and welcome to another wonderful game from the Champions Chess Tour. This is a former world champion, former world classical champion Liren versus Hikaru Nakamura, and obviously a great battle ensued here. We will probably never truly understand, the depths of what they went through to achieve this. So we can at least marvel at a line or two and try to give our little contribution to this beautiful presentation. So by these two gentlemen. So let's check it out. I prepared two pause the video moments. I could have prepared more because it's a very tactical game, but yeah, you guys will have a chance to find what Ding missed and also what Hikaru missed. So let's check it out. Ding with white opens with pawn to c4. Ding lost the first game, so now he really wants to bounce back with white in game 2. Hikaru strikes with pawn to e5, the so-called King's English variation, and pawn to g3. We have knight to f6, sorry, that's not a knight. Bishop to g2, pawn to c6, and pawn to d4. All been played before, nothing new here. We have captures, pawn to d5 and knight to f3. And here bishop to e7 is a bit more common, even knight b to d7. Hikaru goes for bishop to e6, and we have c captures, and castles kingside. Knight to c6, attacking the queen, queen all the way to a4, and now bishop to c5. We have knight to c3, castles kingside, and bishop to g5. And now, okay, h6... definitely has to be played as the bishop cannot retreat to h4. So by playing h6 you are forcing white to either move the bishop back and improve your position, or to trade bishop for the knight, thus winning the bishop pair. So h6, we have bishop captures, queen captures, and rook a to c1. Again, all been played before, bishop to b6, and now there are a couple of games where e3 and queen to b5 were played. Here we have rook f to d1, and it is now as of move 14 that we have a completely new game. So okay, Hikaru strikes pawn to d4. We have knight to e4 attacking the queen, queen to e7. We have rook to e1 back by Ding, rook f to d8, and pawn to a3. Preparing to continue expansion with pawn to b4, d3, and now pawn to e3. Not capturing on d3 to allow the rook this very active square. So pawn to e3, and now rook a to c8. Now here, I also considered making this a pause the video moment, but it's not as if black wins the game or anything. It's just that bishop to d7 makes it incredibly annoying for white to even find the move. And this is a rapid game. Ding is already down to 3 minutes on the clock. Nasty discoveries are coming once this knight moves, and the queen is stuck here on this 4th rank guarding the knight on e4. So it would be very, very difficult to actually find a move here. You have to play something like knight to c3, or maybe, wait with a rook b1, rook d1, and then, wait for knight d4, knight to c2. So it would be very, very hard to actually find a move here. But maybe Hikaru thought that that's what Ding spent all of his time on, preparing for bishop to d7, so that's why he played rook a to c8. We will never know. But okay, rook a c8, we have rook e to d1, and bishop to g4. Again, bishop d7, just extremely annoying for white. Bishop to g4, h3. Ding even forcing Hikaru to go back with the bishop to d7, which is still excellent, but no. We have bishop to h5, pawn to g4, bishop to g6, and now knight to g3. Okay, the knight might have some ideas of coming to f5 or h5 in the future. Queen to f6, and now queen to b5. We have knight to e7, and we have a trade of rooks. Rook captures, and knight to h5, allowing Hikaru to double Ding's pawns, but the knight is too dangerous to remain on h5. So bishop captures, g captures, and rook to c5, attacking the queen, going after the h-pawn. Queen captures on d3, rook captures on h5, and queen to e4. Now Ding looking at that b7 pawn, and also you have to be careful, the knight on e7 is still a little bit weak. So knight to g6, and rook to d7. A nice rook lift before capturing on f7, but this allows Hikaru this very interesting knight to f8 move. And then if Ding captures with the rook, then queen can also capture on b2. But okay, already down to not so much time. Rook to c5, and now rook captures on b7. We have rook to c1 with check, bishop to f1, and now we have knight to f8. And believe it or not, Ding is very, very close to, I wouldn't say a winning position, but a very promising one. But he has to unpin with king to g2. However, he played rook to b8, which is also very nice, as it allows for more tactics, but it allows Hikaru back into the game. Hikaru plays bishop to c7, attacks the rook, also puts pressure along this diagonal, and rook to a8. And here, Hikaru has a beautiful move that he simply didn't see, probably playing against Ding's time, but just for fun, do you see it? And, it seems like it's very easy to parry this threat, however, it is most certainly not. So have at it, while I give you a couple of seconds. What do you play here as black? So, here, Hikaru had queen to a6, which seems like a move Hikaru sees in a fraction of a millisecond, so why wouldn't he play that? Well, the problem is, it is possible, to maybe sacrifice the exchange with rook captures and then queen to a8 with check, and then the king comes to e7, and then maybe you can harass the black king, but I don't think that was it, because, you just win the exchange, you're gonna win the game. Probably after knight to d2, there's this very tricky move that, again, I would say both Hikaru and Ding spot this in an instant, but you just maybe don't think it's there, so you don't look. Okay, now you are defending everything, but queen to d6, look at this. Attacks the knight and threatens checkmate, and that's it. Best white has in this position, if white doesn't want to lose a piece, is to give up the exchange, and after king captures, force a queen trade with queen to b4. Queen captures, 8 captures, and okay, now you have a rook versus a knight. Obviously, you win this easily. So, okay, they were, playing this great battle, playing against each other's time, so they missed it. However, I'm positive you guys were able to crack this one. But this is not where our story ends. We have bishop to d6, king to g2, now Ding finally unpins, queen captures on b2, and now bishop to d3. All of a sudden, Ding is threatening checkmate as the knight on f8 is pinned, and Hikaru just plays pawn to g6. He says, no problem there. I'm defending everything, and while Ding is now completely winning, I will not ask you to pause the video here because the position will repeat. Here, Ding played knight to d4, Hikaru played queen to a1, Ding played knight back to f3, and now, okay, Hikaru did not go back. Hikaru actually captured the pawn on a3, making Ding's position again a winning one. So, for the second time, feel free to pause the video and win the game for Ding while I give you a couple of seconds. So the elusive idea that obviously both of these great players missed is, believe it or not, bishop to c4. And it seems like such a move that does nothing. Yes, we all see the main threat as the f-pawn is pinned and the knight is pinned. The threat is queen captures on g6. But what happens if Hikaru just plays king to g7? Okay, it's very easy to dismiss this. But now the queen being on a3 makes all the difference. Look at this, queen d4 check. It doesn't matter what you play, but if you play pawn to f7, it's still the same. But if you play king to g8, now comes bishop captures on f7 with check. And it doesn't matter if you capture the bishop or not, because white's next move is the same. Rook captures on a7, and that will win the black queen on a3. And very similarly, if you go here, rook captures now attacks the queen, and once the queen is defended, you will threaten some very nasty discoveries and deliver a nice queen to g7 checkmate. So that was in the position. And okay, after bishop to c4, obviously you don't have to do that. This is just, what if black just unpins, because why wouldn't black do that? You would have to give up the exchange, and that's it. Again, okay, you pick up the exchange, and now you're up the exchange, and you have a completely winning endgame. Whether you would win that, that's up to you, but, it is the objective assessment of the position. So after queen captures on a3, queen to d5 was played. Ding not only misses the idea, but blunders the game, and Hikaru does not go rook to d1. Again, very, very interesting. Probably playing against Ding's time. Queen to c5. Hikaru already won the previous game, so he's not, doing anything crazy or, just trying to win the game. He's trying to win the match, and that's why sometimes I prefer not to analyze games when they are part of a match, simply because players will not try to make the best move. They will just try to do what's practically best for them for a match. If Hikaru has one win, he can just draw the next three and win the match. Probably why I wasn't played to perfection, so to say. Queen captures, bishop captures, we have knight to e5 and king to g7. We have bishop to e4 and bishop to b6. We have bishop to d5, putting pressure on f7 and rook to c7, nicely defending, and Hikaru has what he wanted. There's no way for Ding to actually push for anything here. We have pawn to e4, rook to c2 as the f2 pawn was now weakened, knight to d3 defending, and rook to d2. We have bishop to c4 defending the knight, and knight to h7 getting the knight into the game. And e5, you should stop knight to f6, but again, time. h4 was played, knight to f6, and now king to f3. We have rook to c2 going after the bishop, rook to c8 defending, and now pawn to h5. We have bishop to a6 offering a trade of rooks, and rook to a2. Hikaru now not interested in a trade as his position is now once again winning. Bishop to c4, and now he goes rook to d2. Rook to c2 also very much playable. Pawn to e5, we have knight to g4 and pawn to e6, breaking open the black king's defenses. With f captures, rook to e8, now going after the e-pawn, rook to c2, attacking the bishop, and bishop captures on e6. And here, Hikaru just played knight captures on f2, as, like I said, he's happy with a draw here. But a rook c3, makes it a beautiful instant win. And the reason is you will go into bishops of opposite color, and it doesn't seem like much because it's 3 pawns versus 2 pawns, but it's the pawn on h4 is on a dark square. That's the key here, and that's why rook to c3 is so spectacular, because after bishop captures and rook captures with check, let's say king e2, you will go back, rook to d8, and now it doesn't matter. You will win that pawn regardless of what white plays, whether white trades rooks or not. But if, let's say, trades, the pawn falls on the next move. But okay, after bishop captures, knight captures on f2 was played. We have knight to e5. Knight f4 again was a little bit better, but Ding now playing an increment down to 3 seconds. Rook to c3 check. We have king to e2, rook to e3 check. King captures on f2, and the rook captures on e5 with check. There was no way to avoid this trade. King to f3, we have king to f6. Again, rook e3 check. Very, very nice. Because while you do want to go into bishops of opposite color, you would also prefer to win the pawn. So a little bit more precise would be king g2 and then rook e4. You just go after the pawn, either picking it up right away, or if white defends it, you will go and win the pawn this way. But okay, after king f3, king f6 was played by Hikaru. We have bishop to d7. Finally, Ding plays that bishop to d7. That was that Hikaru should have played in the opening. We have rook to d5, bishop to c6, and rook to d3 check. And he was in this position on move 60 that Ding Liren lost on time. But also his position is, much worse. The bishops are now of opposite color. Whether Ding will hold it, we will never know. But yeah. He definitely lost on time. So he lost the first game, he lost the second game, third game ended in a draw, and as it's a 4-game match, that means Hikaru wins the match. But yeah, some pretty crazy tactics, and I understand that everyone's when you're the one playing the game, when the time is ticking, it's easy to miss stuff. But still, for Ding and Hikaru both to miss what they've missed here, I just value their chess. I would say too much and so much to think that it was even possible. But yeah, that's chess. If it can happen, it will happen, and that's why we are here to enjoy these little bits that the grandmasters leave for us. We do what we can. So yeah, that's the game. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Very nicely played by Hikaru, taking down former world champion Ding Liren. I would like to thank Douglas Van Banhuisen, Samuel Kamuli, Nidhi Kumar, Markus Shib, and Mariusz Klimek for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day. Probably next video also coming up from the Sharjah Masters. See you soon.